Although Consumer Reports was founded in 1936, it didn't start the first of many owner satisfaction reliability surveys until 1952. Many may view this survey as the gold standard in evaluating how satisfied consumers are with their vehicles during the first 3 years of ownership, but consider this. Consumer Reports surveys its members. Another survey developed by J.D. Power is more random or more inclusive of the population and owners as a whole. And there are differences between the two surveys. Some include some makes, others don't include makes. It's interesting to note. For example,
reiterate what you said, though, that it's for Consumer Reports subscribers only?
Yes, it's for Consumer Reports subscribers only. Okay. Bottom line, full disclosure, I have caught the Consumer Reports survey inconsistent, and I've written them about it.
Are you a subscriber?
No.
Interesting, and think how deep you're into this.
Let me give you an example. There was 1 year, Chrysler product, Dodge product, Plymouth product, made on the same assembly lines with the same underlying running gear and everything. There were differences, but not dramatic differences. Same materials, same people putting them together, same assembly plant, same line. Different ratings by significant amounts. How is that even possible?
Like an A, C, and an F.
Yeah. I mean, literally, very, very different.
Yeah.
I wonder aloud, without getting into all the numbers, is how much of this reflects the bias of Consumer Reports members, 1, towards foreign vehicles, 2, towards more expensive vehicles, because the demographic would be better educated, higher income. And I'm not knocking that. But I wonder, when I'm thinking about these surveys, J.D. Power versus Consumer Reports, how much of the bias works its way in that has nothing to do, that is subjective, when they're trying to pay it off as objective? That's my big question. For example, one survey says, oh my God, everybody loves the Tesla Model 3. Yet, the Tesla Model 3, if you look at Consumer Reports, doesn't factor in as far as reliability is concerned. But here's an interesting thing. They rated the car as average. That's another issue I want to talk about. What is a vehicle that is average maintenance? Consumer Reports uses that as if it's horrible. And I've been reading Consumer Reports for years. And I can tell you, worse than average and much worse than average is bad. Average, if I was to tell you that the difference between much worse than average and much better than average is probably less than 10 basis points in fluctuation. I mean, vehicles, regardless of whatever survey that you pay attention to, whether it's a survey that says what cars everybody likes, what surveys are most reliable, there isn't that dramatic difference that there was in the 70s, 80s, and even 90s. Yes, if you're going to own a car for long distances, and put a lot of miles on a year, the Japanese cars tend to still do a little bit better. But the American cars and American trucks are no slouch. And as a matter of fact, some of your American pickups are probably some of the best vehicles on the road. Case in point, Ford F-150. F-Series has been the best-selling vehicle for over 40 years. There's a reason. And you don't see a lot of them broke down. As a matter of fact, you don't see a lot of pickup trucks broke down, even if you go back 20, 30 years old. And I've always said, pickup truck's probably your best value, because even old and worn out and rusted, it's probably still worth $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And in this market, probably close to $8,000, $9,000, which is crazy.
So what did this report have to say?
This report had to say a lot. And it gets down to reliability versus happiness. Now, reliability may mean fewer trips to the dealer, but it doesn't necessarily bring happiness. And that's the takeaway from the Consumer Reports' new ranking of brands that most consistently please their customers across their brand lineup. Tesla wound up on top of the charts as being a people pleaser. Why? Because Elon Musk made it cool to own an electric vehicle. How much of that bias got in there?
Yeah.
When you look at reliability, the Consumer Reports survey, Tesla's near the bottom. And the Model 3, again, is the best rated, and it's average. The rest of the Tesla models are worse than average, according to the people who responded to the Consumer Reports survey. And here's an interesting point. Typically, it's not the electronics in a Tesla that go bad. Everybody else, it's electronics. That's the issue. In a Tesla, it's everything else.
I've been seeing images of when the cars freeze over. They've had trouble like opening doors and just general things.
Yeah, that's the stuff that usually frustrates the heck out of people.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that typically goes wrong in a Tesla. The electronics, no, not so much.
I totally agree with you. Like Tesla being such a love-hate thing, it makes sense on some of these reports that it's either going to get way loved or almost hated because depending on the people that get questioned, it's going to vary a lot.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the flip side, in Consumer Reports, in terms of reliability, the Ford Mustang Mach-E was Consumer Reports EV's top pick. Think about that. And they've only been making that thing, I think they're now in their third model year.
Oh, man, that far already? I thought it would have been like number 2. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, they've been at it a little while. It's crazy, though. You know, I can read all the numbers, but it makes my head spin. It basically gets down to this. What is most reliable doesn't necessarily make you happy. And their different surveys show that. And then that's just Consumer Reports in their 2 surveys. If you go to J.D. Powers, which is more statistical than, member-based or client-based or something like that, it's a whole different story. It's a whole different story.
At least I guess people probably the best thing to remind people of when they're reading these things is read as many different ones as you can. Even if it's going to be all across the board, you'll know, the good, the bad, the ugly, maybe some exaggerated, unexaggerated,
My number one complaint with Consumer Reports has been and continues to be the more money you're willing to pay generally, not always, but generally, the higher the ranking of the vehicle.
I've heard that before.
Not generally. I'm not going to say in every case because I can name a few high-end vehicles that did not do well. Now, and if you look at happiness survey, Consumer Reports, Cadillac's towards the bottom. Go figure. Folks just ain't feeling it. But again, I think that reliability has a place, and certainly for the kind of money you're going to expect to spend, whether it's a new or used vehicle, you should at least factor that in, but it's not the only thing. And I'm going to tell you this, average reliability is not a bad thing today. Case in point, the average car in the Consumer Reports reliability survey had to improve 10% per year just to stay average. Think about that. In order to just keep an average rating, the car had to get better by 10%.
Yeah.
Not to get better than average or slip to worse than average, just to stay average. It had to improve 10% per year, every year, to keep that ranking.
Interesting.
And that the spread just isn't what it used to be. And people who have those memories are thinking back 20, 30 years ago. It's not like that now. Not at all.
Yeah.
So,
take it in stride.
Mm-hmm.
What will the future of car racing look like? Perhaps a bit like the Formula E circuit. We are RoadWorthy Drive.